Hey there friends, Rebecca here, the Dragon Librarian from Farmington Community Library, and we are here to talk to you about a book today that totally took over my life over the weekend, and yes, it was crazy. So I had a completely different video in mind for today. I had it all planned out and everything, and then I read this book over the weekend. I could not put it down. I stayed up way too late both nights, Saturday and Sunday, reading this book. I tore through it. I couldn't stop reading it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I changed my plans to talk about this book this week because I'm just really still excited about it and thinking about it. So this book is it's the second book by this particular author, and the first book that they wrote was a complete hit. And I absolutely love that book too. And when I picked this book up in the store, I actually forgot who this author was, and I forgot the previous book. I got it because I was so excited about the synopsis. So this book is called End of Story, and it's by A.J. Finn. So I was really drawn to this in the store because of the cover. I thought, is this a book about books or writing? And it totally is. So I read the blurb, completely bypassed who this was. So I got it and I started reading it and I was like, wait a minute, who is this author? And I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, this is the same author that wrote The Woman in the Window, which came out a few years ago. It was a smash hit. There was a movie based on it too. I never saw it, so I can't tell you whether it's any good. But I loved the book, The Woman in the Window. So I went quickly online to look up some reviews on Goodreads, and I saw that this book is really trending at a very low rating. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of disappointing. I don't know what's going on with that. And then I remembered that there was a controversy about this author. And I'm just going to briefly touch on it before I jump into the book. So apparently this author, a few years ago, it was uncovered that they had fabricated a story about them having cancer. Now, I haven't done a deep dive into this controversy. I remember hearing it briefly when it happened, but this isn't something I've researched very deeply, so I don't know a lot of the history and the other background information about it, other than he fabricated a story about having cancer for some reason, and he got caught, and it was really weird, and then, so I don't know if the book reviews for this are in relation to the author himself and people not liking him as a person. So I would say my advice would be, particularly with Goodreads, which I do use all the time, but sometimes the reviews are not always accurate about the story, right? Sometimes you read a review and people are talking really great things about a book or really not great things about a book, but the best thing you can do is read it for yourself to find out, to form your own opinion. So I had already started reading this book when I jumped back into the controversy online to read about it. So I was already hooked, but it would not have turned me off this book anyway, because I absolutely loved this book. Oh my goodness. So I remember loving The Woman in the Window too. His first book that came out a few years ago. I loved that story. This one, oh my God, I could not put it down. I was so hooked. So basically this is a thriller / mystery. And I really want to, really want to say that it is definitely both of those genres. It's really kind of marketed, even just as the cover and stuff, as a thriller. But I think it's also much more of a mystery than a thriller. And I'll get into why in a moment. So this is about a notorious writer named Sebastian Trapp, who wrote this really popular detective series throughout the years. And he was basically a literary household name. Everybody knew him. Everybody knew his books. Very popular. And then at the turn of the century, New Year's Eve, 1999, his wife and his son disappear. Totally gone, never found. Nobody knows what happened to them. He still has a daughter. His daughter is okay, but the son and his wife, gone. Nobody ever heard from them again. So, of course, obviously, a lot of people are like, oh my God, he killed them, right? Especially since he writes all these detective murder stories. But nobody has ever been able to prove anything or come up with any idea about what happened to them. So now it's current times. It's been 20 years since then, right? And Sebastian Trapp has reached out because he wants his story to be told. He wants his life story to be told because he is dying. So he has this illness, he is dying from it, he doesn't have much longer, so he reaches out to this woman named Nikki, who is a huge fan of his, and actually they have been corresponding for years. She is a expert at detective fiction, and he reaches out to her and says, I want you to be the one to tell my story. So come to my house, come live with me for, a few weeks, whatever, and I will dictate to you what I want written. So Nikki goes out there and meets her hero, Sebastian, who she's been corresponding with. She meets his daughter, Madeline. She meets his second wife, Diana, his nephew, Freddie. She meets all these people, and she's not there to solve the mystery of what happened, because he doesn't really talk about his previous wife and son very often. But things start to happen, things start to come to light when she realizes that this is a story that does need to be told. What did happen to his wife and to his son? And is the past really gone? Or is it just all around us still? So a lot of people, when I was reading reviews about this book, said, oh, it's got a slow pace, it moves too slow, blah, 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 blah. And that's why I want to say that I think this book really toes the line between thriller and mystery. So in a thriller, generally, and this is just me, and it's not everybody, but when I'm reading a thriller, I'm not super particularly caring about character growth and development, right? The main thing about a thriller that I find I'm excited about is the story. I want the action, I want the plot. The characters are there to move the story forward, but I'm not really worried about how they're growing as a person or what's going on with them, right? I want to know what's the plot, who's getting murdered and why, and all this other stuff, right? When you're reading a thriller, it's action, it's intense, it's fast moving. Well, this book, I cared so much about all of these characters. All of these characters, I cared so much about them. And this book does take its time in telling you about Nikki, and you find out about her and the things that she cares about and her motivations and the way she thinks about things. And you start to really care about Sebastian Trapp, and you're like, I don't want to believe that he did something to his family. Is he responsible to what happened to his wife and his son? You meet the daughter, you meet his new wife, and you just love her. And this story really just envelops you in character development, which is not something usually that thrillers do. That's definitely more of a mystery genre sort of thing. So I think if you go into this thinking it's going to be like a typical thriller and it moves really fast and all this stuff, you might be a little disappointed, because you have to sit back and savor this story. You have to watch it unfold before you, and you have to take in all these characters, and you take in this story, and you have to really just sink into this story. So yes, it's a thriller, but it's also definitely a mystery too, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. So also Nikki, the narrator, one of the narrators in this book, the one who is going out there to write Sebastian's story, I adored her. Like, her inner voice was so hilarious and amazing. The dialogue in this book was written so well. I absolutely loved it. It felt natural. It flowed really great. It was just really fantastic. Now, throughout the story, I was, of course, trying to figure out what the twist was. What was the angle, right? And there were multiple times when I was like, oh, I've got it. I know exactly what's going on. I can see what you're doing there, Mr. Finn. I know the angle that you're going towards. I see right through you. I had two different theories that I thought were going on. And I was 100% certain that they were correct. Friends, I was not correct. I had the actual twist of this book is so crazy and incredible and mind-blowing. I had to just stop and put the book down and just breathe for a few minutes, because I could not believe how blown away I was. It's phenomenal. I won't say anything more about it because I really want you to read this and experience it for yourself. But woo! What a twist, what a ride. And if you like your thrillers and mysteries with great characters and great development and a plot that still moves in a very interesting way, and it does move quickly. I don't want to say that this is like a slow-paced book, just might be a little bit slower paced based on other thrillers that you may have read. I love this book. So if you can put aside any misgivings you have about the author himself, about what he may or may not have done in the past, and just look at the story for the book it is, you know, I think you are in for a big, big treat. I absolutely love this. I'm going to be talking about this book for a while, and I absolutely loved it. It was so, 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 so phenomenal, and it's totally worth reading. End of story. AJ Finn. Well, that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope that this book sounds really exciting and that you're super hyped to try it out. If so, please feel free to come check it out from Farmington Community Library. And also, thank you so, so much for watching, friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day.